We all just celebrated New Year's Day. It is now 2025. However, New Year's Day, prior to the 13th Amendment, the one that freed enslaved people, was not a good day for blacks in the United States of America. But then, what day was a good day prior to the 13th Amendment? What day was a good day prior to 1965 for blacks in the United States of America? But I digress. That's a separate conversation. Anyways, New Year's Day was part of an economic cycle when debts were collected and settled, which meant enslavers often sold or hired out their slaves in the first days of the year to pay their debts. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but in the South, enslaved people were cash. Yeah, yeah. If we haven't had that conversation, we will. Again, I digress. Let me focus. In the Black community, New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day, as the Black abolitionist journalist William Cooper Neal described it, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them out to someone else, potentially splitting up their families. The renting out of enslaved labor was a relatively common practice in the antebellum South and a profitable practice for white enslavers and their hirers. Of all days in the year, the slaves dread New Year's Day the worst of any. A slave named Lewis Clark said in an 1842 account. Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January. These transactions also took place all year long, and contracts could last for different amounts of time. These deals were conducted privately among families, friends, and business contacts, and enslaved people were handed over in town squares, on courthouse steps, and sometimes simply on the side of the road. This, according to the Divided Mastery, Slave Hiring in the American South, a book written by Jonathan D. Martin. Enslaved people didn't know where they would be sent or if they would be able to see their families again after being rented out. On New Year's Day, we went to the auctioneer's block to be hired to the highest bidder for 1 year. Israel Campbell wrote in a memoir published in 1861 in Philadelphia, in which he describes being hired out 3 times. Enslaved people spent the day before January 1st, New Year's Eve, hoping and praying that their hirers would be humane and that their families could stay together. Additionally, there's a saying, I've heard it the majority of my adult life, that what you do on January 1st is what you'll be doing all year long. That comes from this practice, this Heartbreak Day or Hiring Day. A former slave known as Sister Harrison said in an interview in 1937, that's where that saying comes from, that what you do on New Year's Day, you'll be doing all the rest of the year. Because enslaved people would be hired out or sold and given to their new owners on New Year's Day. After the Emancipation Proclamation was signed on January 1st, 1863, the meaning of Heartbreak Day shifted to symbolize a day of liberation for enslaved people.